Hello everybody, Zelfie here, and today I'm back with another video. It's been a while, so I really wanted to make sure I got something out for you guys. And one of my most successful videos on the channel was that video where I talked about a bunch of the buff Pokemon, stuff like the Go-Go and the Mightyena, and stuff like that. And so I thought I would make a sequel to that, because obviously you guys seem to like that a lot. Anyways, I'm back with 5 more Pokemon that have gotten huge buffs. And when I say huge buffs, I mean these buffs are extremely significant towards their viability. I will say though, most of these Pokemon don't really become good until you get to Fuchsia City. So yeah, there's that caveat, but you know, since I talked about like early game mods, I thought it'd be nice to talk about the late game mods afterwards. So let's just go ahead and get started. And the first mod I want to talk about is Magcargo. Magcargo is interesting because they changed the Magma Armor ability to Simple. And this is an extremely nice tool. You would think that because Magcargo normally has Shell Smash, it's like, oh, you actually make use, you can actually outspeed things, it'll hit kind of hard. But unfortunately they replaced Shell Smash. I guess maybe they didn't want it to become like too broken. Like on top of Magcargo having pretty solid defense, or pretty solid defenses, maybe they just thought it'd be oppressive. But thankfully, they replaced Shell Smash with No Retreat, which is Phalanx's signature move if you don't know. And basically, it gives you +1 in every stat, but you can't swap out afterwards. And that's a little bit of a downside. It means that you can't just come in and threaten with the No Retreat. But honestly, it's probably fine anyways. And outside of that, you'll learn all these moves naturally, with No Retreat being the last move you learn at level 64. Outside of that, I don't believe Magcargo got any other changes. I can go ahead. No, I won't double check. But I don't think Magcargo got any stat buffs. So unfortunately, you're still going to be working with like a base 20/30 speed, something extremely low like that. And that means you're going to have issues outspeeding. Definitely means you're going to have to probably invest all your speed EVs into speed, as well as a speed boost nature such as Timid. But outside of that, it's probably going to be fun. I can think of quite a few gyms, I can think of quite a few places where this could be helpful. For example, against Blaine, this is actually not a bad sweeper, because Blaine usually can stop some sweeps that require some fast mod, like overtaking everything, just because he has Typhlosion, which has priority eruption, and that is a struggle to get past. But at least with Magcargo here, you'll be 4 times resisting eruption anyways, and even if it's in the sun, you have decent Spinef, you'll have +2 Spinef, so honestly, your chances of being able to sweep Blade with Magcargo are pretty high, I would say. As for that, you also have Koga as well. I think Koga is actually going to be a pretty decent fight as well. You'll have to worry about Greninja, because I don't think he'd outspeed that, even with all the speed boosting natures in the world. Maybe if you were like max IVs in speed, but you'd have to double check yourself on that one. But you can probably get away with sweeping Koga pretty easily. Oh, you also have to worry about Drapion too, because Drapion can just ignore your defense buffs due to him clicking Wicked Blow and Sniper. But outside of that, you got Setup on Swallow. Man, you might struggle with Aselgor, but you can also put on a Chople Berry if need be and absorb that Focus Blast. And then outside of that, you could probably take on everything else. As long as the Greninja is down, you'll be fine, I think. And then you obviously body Toxicity as well. As for other fights, Magcargo might do well against the team admins, the Rocket admins. They have stuff like Mamoswine, Incineroar, and Aegislash, and those are probably mods that you can, with your decent bulk, set up on. So I can see you doing actually pretty well against those. You don't have to worry about like the Mamoswine, for example. But outside of that, like, I think Magcargo has plenty of opportunities to really shine. Unfortunately, when you get to Elite Four, I don't think it does much in the Elite Four. Maybe, because let's see, where do you have set up opportunities? Against Champion, you're not going to set up on anything really. Against Lance, you could probably deal a lot of damage to Primal Dialga and Melmetal, but you're also going to have trouble setting up on other things. Although, you know, I think it probably fares okay against Lance. Against Agatha, Agatha's really scary because if you can't outspeed the Marshadow, then Marshadow will sweep you right back, thanks to Spectral Thief. So I probably wouldn't risk it unless if you know you're gonna outspeed the Marshadow. And then against Bruno's really tough. There's not a lot of set opportunities. And then against Lorelei, it's like a 50-50. If you can get Hail and find an opportunity to set up the Hail team, you're probably fine. But there's no way you're ever gonna get away with setting up on the Ring team. And so I think Matt Cargo has a fair bit of potential, especially in those like first two gyms that I was talking about. But yeah, outside of that, you're still gonna struggle with your speed, just because your base speed is so low that even a +2 isn't gonna help you fix it. And you can't no retreat multiple times, unfortunately, so you're not gonna be able to ever outspeed stuff like Ash Greninja, for example. Anyways, but yeah, Mad Cargo is really cool. I might use this in a casual run next time I play through, because it looks really neat. Anyways, next mod I want to talk about is Floatzel. Now, Floatzel's at a much higher level than the rest of these mods that I've showed off, and that is because at level 80, you get access to Surging Strikes. On top of that, Floatzel also now has Technician. I believe it did receive a nerf to its attack, while also getting its special attack buff, but that's not really important. So instead of having 115 attack, it is 90, or it's like, instead of having 105 attack, it has 90 attack now. And you can sort of ignore these stats because these offenses and speed are pitiful. But Floatzel actually doesn't have bad speed. I believe it is sitting around like, I don't remember what Floatzel's speed is exactly. It's probably like somewhere in the 90 range, which is perfectly fine. But yeah, you have Technician, and honestly, this set kind of speaks for itself. All these moves are going to get boosted by Technician, so Flip Turn's going to be doing a lot of damage. Fake Out will deal some damage as well, and a little bit of extra chip, and the Aqua Jet is just there in case if you ever need to outspeed anything. But mostly, you're just going to be clicking Surging Strikes. This hits 3 times, it always crits, so it's going to be dealing phenomenal damage. On top of that, you can just slap on a Choice Band or a Life Orb. I would just say run Choice Band because I don't think you need any other... I don't think you even need to click Fake Out. But if you wanted to, you can throw a Life Orb onto this baby and just get away with dealing a lot of damage. And I don't really have too much else to add on to this. It being level 80 means that you're pretty much restricted to using this for Giovanni, Claire, and the Elite Four. And I think this does pretty fine against Giovanni. You'll have a great time just bodying a lot of threats. Perhaps if your partner cooperates properly, you could even take down stuff like the Lele, and then the T-Tower, and then the Excadrill, stuff like that. And if you find a way to remove the terrain, you can even Aqua Jet Excadrill down, or just remove the weather as a whole too. That's also an option. Do I have anything else to add on to this? What does it do against the Elite Four now? I don't think you have that great of a Lorelei matchup. It just like, sure it hits hard, but it doesn't have any specialties there. Against Bruno, I think this mod can just come in and click moves. You'll have to worry about the, Oh, what this is good for? This is good against a lot of the leads in the Elite Four. So if they ever lead like Aerodactyl or Infernape, this is just gonna body all those leads. And this probably bodies the Crocodile too, just because you're a multi-hit and you can bypass Focus Sash. So that's a neat trait to have. On top of that, I think this Pokemon just, every time that you get it in, it's probably gonna pick up a KO, just from how scary its damage output is. And obviously, well, not obviously, but I think this mod also gets Ice Punch too, which you can run in favor of like Aqua Jet or Fake Out or something. And that'll probably help you against Lance. It'll allow you to like hit the Mega Salamence, for example, I guess. So, you know, this is a very straightforward mod. There's really not much to discuss here. Very limited fights where you can use it at its maximum potential, but it's still going to be extremely powerful. And if you just want to click Surging Strikes and have fun with it, then be my guest. The next Pokemon I want to talk about is Drapion. Now, I think a lot of people are going to understand why I'm talking about Drapion. In fact, I talked about it a little bit earlier, but you have Wicked Blow now, and this is pretty much the singular move that you're going to need. It's Urshifu's other signature move, and basically allows you to always crit. On top of Sniper, which boosts your critical hit damage, you're just gonna be like bodying everything. And there's quite a few sets you can run here. You're running Choice Scarf, just to outspeed things and click or move. This will be extremely helpful against Agatha, for example. But you can also go Choice Band, just to deal even more damage in case if you're a sicko that wants to see the world burn. Or you can even go for like Sword Stance. I think this mod also might get Agility too. So there's quite a few ways where you can run this, but they pretty much all rely on using Wicked Blow, which is perfectly fine because this move is extremely powerful, especially in the hands of Drapion. I can't think... Let me see here. Against Blade, it'll probably serve alright. It might Oko some things too if you don't speed them, or have a Choice Scarf on. Against Koga, Koga's a bit weird, just because of all the other dark types and how speedy his team is in general, so you probably want to keep your choice... Oh wait, you won't have a Choice Scarf by then, because Choice Scarf you need to serve for, unless if you got lucky in the raids, which is an entirely different point. But, yeah. Where else can you use this? Against Claire, it'll be good against everything except for the Bagheera, I think? Yeah. And then Lorelei probably gets hit super hard by it. Bruno, you'll struggle to use this against too, just because he's gonna resist. He's gonna resist your Wicked Blow, and even the non-fighting type Pokemon that he has is Zacian, which of course is also resisting Wicked Blow. But outside of that, this mod has a lot of scary potential, and I would say Drapion is one of the best fit mods for taking on Giovanni, which is a hard thing to have. As long as you can find a way to bypass the Excadrill, I think this probably smashes every other single one of his mods. It smashes the Lele. It's a really good answer to Mega Mewtwo, which is a mod that's normally extremely hard to check. So yeah, I don't really have too much else to add on here. I think this mod is just extremely powerful, and similar to Flitzel, it's really self-explanatory to see why Drapion is really good. Okay, this next mod we are going to talk about is Electrifier. Now, Electrifier got... Oh, I forgot to mention. Instead of Drapion having 90 attack, it now has 80 attack, and it take a small nerf in order to compensate for Gay Wicked Blow, which is a much, much better buff. Anyways, now we've moved on to Electrifier. This mod got some buffs, and I think it's attack and special attack? Either that or it lost some attack, but I believe it got some buffs somewhere that makes its stat spread even more usable. On top of that, it now has a fighting typing, which allows you to make use of fighting stabs, obviously. It also has Iron Fist, which is not only a buff to your attack power, but Iron Fist itself got buffed. It's either a 1.3 times damage boost or a 1.5 times damage boost. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it did get buffed from Vanilla, which is normally just 1.2. And so, honestly, you can run a set like this, except for the earlier parts of the game. You can run Thunder Punch instead of Plasma Fist, since you need to be level 70 to get Plasma Fist. And I can just say that Close Combat and Mach Punch will hit extremely hard for the majority of the time. And then you also got like Ice Punch or Earthquake or whatever other move you want to run here, and you'll probably be fine. Against Koga, I think Mach Punch is extremely helpful. It allows you to help with some of the speedier mods such as the Swallow and the Ash Greninja. Those are some scary mods to get past. You can also run Earthquake for the Toxicity as well. And yeah, Electrifier is just going to serve a pretty like just vanilla attacker role, but at least it hits extremely hard when doing so. Against Blade, you'll just click Earthquake against a lot of the things. There's honestly not a point where it's like phenomenal against Blade. I think this mod also does pretty well against the Rocket Grunts, minus the Mimikyu and maybe the Mawile, which is extremely tough for Electrifier to handle on its own. But yeah, outside of those two mods, I think Electrifier probably bodies the rest of these mods. And if you find a way to remove the terrain, then you'll also be able to Mach Punch the Excadrill down in the Giovanni fight. And then, aside of that, I think this mod just serves extremely well in the rest of the fights in the game. I don't think there's really a low point for it, except for maybe Agatha, which you're going to struggle with just due to Agatha's mods being... they sort of fill a similar role to Electrifier, where they just hit kind of hard. And they're just going to be faster than you, like the Mega Gengar, for example, and the what's it called, in the Marshadow, and he can't Mach Punch Revenge Kill them, so that is an issue. And then in Champion, this mod can help to Revenge Kill the Darkrai, as long as Darkrai's Sash is broken, which all you need to do is get Stealth Rocks up or hit a U-turn or any other chip damage based move on it, and then you can just Mach Punch it down. If you get this in against the Mega Blastoise before it sets up as well, that'll also be a prime opportunity for Electrifier to shine. And it gets a lot of damage against Primal Groudon if you just want to sack into that as well. So yeah, there's plenty of situations where Electrifier is going to be extremely helpful. And I don't have too much else to add on. It's just a really, really phenomenal mod. Except unlike the previous two mods I mentioned, in these two where they pretty much just click one move, Electivire's niche stems from its phenomenal coverage and just ability to wall break. I would just shove a Life Orb onto this mod just to help boost your damage up by a lot. You're already stacking a lot of attack base with the Iron Fist and the stabs, for example. Life Orb will work just fine, but you know, you'd also run a Choice Scarf in some fights if you think it's necessary. And yeah, it's just a pretty good mod. And finally, the last new buff mod that I want to talk about is Jump Bluff. Now, I sort of lumped Jump Bluff into this late game category, even though you get it as early as Route 2. And what the reasons for that is pretty much all, like, these three moves that you see right here are all egg moves, which you can breed for technically, or you can just wait until you get Diffusia and trade him some heart scales for the egg moves. And of course, Horsehands you can buy in the Celadon area. And one of the reasons why I mentioned Jump Bluff here is because its stats got buffed. Instead of it having something pitiful like 50 attack or something like that, it now has 85 attack, which is respectable. But it also has Aerial 8 now, which, if you weren't catching on already, turns your normal type moves into flying type moves, and it gives them a buff to their attack. So with Double Edge, you're going to be doing a lot of damage. On top of that, Jump Bluff also has Strength Sap, which is incredible. It allows you to set up on a lot of the physical mods, like a lot of physical mods that you can just find literally in the game. Gives you setup opportunities against maybe the Mimikyu, for example, maybe against some other stuff as well. Dracovish from what's her name, Claire, example. And there's also a few other sets that you can run. For example, you can probably take out Seed Bomb if you really wanted to, and put it like Substitute, or just find other ways to antagonize your opponent. I think Jump Plus is a very versatile mod because it does have a 110 speed tier, and it has its bulk isn't the best, but thankfully due to Strength Sap, you're gonna find a lot of ways to create setup opportunities for this mod. And of course, if you don't want to run Double Edge, you can just run Return, or just any other normal move that you can find. I don't know what other ones there are, but I'm sure they exist. And I can just, I can mention a few fights where I think it'll be helpful. Unfortunately, I don't think Jump Plus is very helpful for the first two gyms that you're gonna really have it for, which are Blade and Koga. I just don't think it does anything in those fights in particular. But against Claire, I can see it being helpful. You'll have to worry about the Naganadel and the Magirna, but I think it does alright against everything else. Oh, it probably struggles against the Duraludon too. Against Lorelei, it'll probably do fine. You can Seed Bomb a lot of stuff. You'd have to worry about Hail, obviously. Against Bruno's actually one of the fights where it'll excel the most at. Obviously, the Fighting type trainer is going to struggle a lot against that. But just due to the amount of physical mods that Bruno has, you'll find plenty of opportunities where you can use Strength Sap to gain advantage of your opponent. And if you have Substitute, plus maybe like Leftovers, for example, you'll be able to pretty much find a way to get to +6 and beat out the mods that you probably shouldn't be able to beat, such as like Zacian, for example. I think this also does well against Agath too. You just gotta worry about the Marshadow stealing your buffs afterward, and keeping some up for Mega Gengar as well. I think those would be the issues with bring Jump Off into that fight. And then not Champion, but Lance, you're gonna have to struggle with Primal Dialga, Melmetal. So unfortunately, I don't think Jump Off is gonna have too many fights where it really shines. And you can find a lot of niche uses for it. But I still think it's a really cool mod in general. Like, just the way that this mod went from completely, like, gunted support with only like... Oh, I forgot to mention, you can also run Sleep Powder on one of those slots too, and that'll be extremely helpful in presenting even more setup opportunities. But yeah, outside of that, I don't think this mod does too much. Actually, against Champion, you might have a decent opportunity against Champion, as long as you have Substitute in your arsenal. If you can find a way to like Sleep Powder the Crocodile, for example, you can probably set up a Substitute and Sword Stance, and then Return might just body like everything else. With at least Stab and Aerialate, like, you'll be doing a lot of damage. I think the Crocodile is prime opportunity to set him on, especially since he'll be faster. All you gotta do is hit that first Sleep Powder, obviously. And then you might even be able to Oko Primal Groudon, Mega Blastoise, get past the Darkrai. And honestly, the only thing you need to worry about is the Ditto. Just make sure that Ditto doesn't copy you and Revenge Sweep you. But as long as you have, like, an Ice Shard user, for example, or even if you really wanted to, like, Talonflame, I guess, you'll be fine. Yeah, actually, against Champion is probably one of the better fights it has, which is funny enough. But yeah, these were just a bunch of mods I wanted to talk about since that last video did so well. And if you guys have any more recommendations for mods to talk about, just leave them in the description. I just wanted to talk about these because these were all cool, and last time I did early game mods, so I decided, hey, we should mix it up and do late game mods. Anyways, that's pretty much all I have to say. If you enjoy this type of content, make sure to leave a like and comment down below and subscribe. I'm really close to 1K, and when I hit 1K, that means that YouTube will unlock a bunch of features for me that'll be more helpful for spreading my content out and improving my content. So being able to hit that 1K mark would not only be helpful for me, but it would just be really impressive, since before I started uploading this Radical Red content, I only had 120 subscribers, and now we're almost at 1,000. It's so absurd in my mind, but yeah, I don't have too much else to say, so I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Deuces.